They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to The Shadow of the Man. I'm your host, Andy. Happy New Year! It's that Andy. Today, a very special guest. I have Beth from Accuracy Third. Welcome, Beth.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, nice to talk to you.
Yeah, pleasure to talk. So, Accuracy Third. So, it's a Burning Man podcast. You guys have your Tales from the Playa, oral histories, right? Like, I'd say you guys definitely have like more of like an insider's perspective. Like, you guys are all staff, right?
Sort of insider.
Yeah.
We're more insider now than when we started.
hmm
Just through getting, Rex started actually working at the org full time. I am now the mayor of a staff camp, and D-Day runs the kitchen for our staff camp. So, when we started 9 years ago, we were all sort of in different positions, doing different kinds of volunteer work. This is kind of where we've ended up over time. Yeah.
hmm So
But it
how
is
long?
kind of exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean just sometimes like some of the episodes I learned to when we referring to like ranger codes and stuff, and like I have a number of friends who are rangers and this and that, but I've never done the rangering myself. And so
Well, you should take the training. It's a blast.
oh yeah. But it's funny because it was like code green or red or blue or whatever, and I was just like, what is that? Which one was that? Like I've heard people talk about these things, but
Yeah,
but
when we started the podcast, we would slow down and explain things mostly because I didn't know what they meant because
uh
Rex and D-Day were had a lot more experience with Burning Man than I did. But
yeah.
now we're totally insider baseball to the extent that sometimes I imagine we're unlistenable.
But it's very funny. I love the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like our friendship is really warm and we just sit around and shoot the shit with each other all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's mostly what we're cutting out of our podcasts. Isn't the Burning Man
Ah,
stories? It's us rehashing stuff that has nothing to do with Burning Man.
yeah. So how many years have you been on the Playa now? Or what was the first time you went to Burning Man?
I went to Burning Man for the first time in '07. And I'm at 10 or 11 years now, some
hmm
years off, and yeah, so 10, 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, well, that's a kind of a good background, like who you are, like within the Burning Man world and your experience. But we'll come back to that maybe more in depth. But so where did it all begin?
So
Well, like life before Burning Man, like what led you to Burning Man?
I had gone to art school. I was making collaborative ensemble generated theater with some folks who did Burning Man. Uh,
Mm.
I was also poly and kind of dating some of those folks. So I was in like weird sex positive art world up in Seattle, and like
Ah.
suddenly all of the friends that I were making were all burners. And
Uh-huh.
my partner had done Burning Man like back in like 96, 97, and he was done with it. He had gone enough. But then I was like, well, but what if I want to go? Um, so like I found out about it a couple of months before it happened in '06. And so I had like a whole year, and I joined an sort of established camp with a bunch of people who'd done it forever. So
Uh-huh.
I got a really easy landing. Like we were having meetings once a month and really getting our shit together. So I was very lucky in how I went, because I was
That's the
like,
way to do it. Yeah.
yeah. Find a bunch of burner friends and then join their camp. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean I've heard of these like gung ho people who's like, I'm gonna go for the first time and I'm gonna show up on the bus with like my backpack. I mean, I
Oh
actually,
shit. I'm so not that person. I'm
yeah.
like if it's gonna take me 4 hours to research the beginning of my packing list, I'm just fucked. I need someone to like hold my hand and let me know it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, like for me, I actually took the bus this year. That I brought like two duffel bags, and I figured out my maximum weight. And I told like I was staying at the elsewhere, like there in center camp. So, I knew I didn't have to bring water, and, like heavy things like that. But I had to bring like my tent, all of my stuff, my all my food, everything. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you're
But I
coming in
couldn't
from
imagine like doing that just like, oh, I'm gonna do like walk-in camping. I mean, I went to a place
oh,
that like they had electricity, they had water, they had like shade.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. The thing that really saved my ass is we had a really good pre-meal planning setup.
Hmm.
So, like a couple of our camp people were really gung-ho on making sure that we had like real food the whole week. So there's like bagged frozen meals that you heat up in boiling water. And
Yeah.
they were really good because it was like a passion project for some people in the camp. And we had like a huge amount of shade, not that I just wouldn't have had access to otherwise. And
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody, as soon as you start gathering people, it's harder to like really leave something that you needed to have behind. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know. What we experienced our camp, it was quite the opposite. It was like people bringing more things than we needed. Like I remember one point seeing this like bucket of metal scraps, and I was like, "Who put this 5 gallon like Costco bucket of like metal scraps?" And like, "Oh, I thought maybe I'd weld some stuff up on the playa. It's like just kind of arts and crafty things like around like." You realize how much weight we're adding to the truck with this, like 40 pounds of this, like all this. We're like, I mean, people brought like a vacuum, an old vacuum cleaner, and then I was like, we're going, wow, why are you bringing a vacuum cleaner? It's like, I
oh,
thought it'd
I
be
had a
funny.
campmate who would bring a dust buster every year just to vacuum out the tent.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, we had plenty of things like that. It was always like, it's like the light of day reveals all, or like, like the leaving day or the end of the week, kind of like exposes like, like at your camp, it's like, oh, all like the extra stuff you brought or like things you didn't bring, you have to like, and people like trade with each other and giving things away. Lots of meals being cooked.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, if you're hungry at Burning Man, stick around for strike because people are like, take my food, take it,
Yeah.
please, come eat it all.
Yeah.
I
So yeah, so where is that where you grew up? Was in Seattle?
grew up in Portland and I went up to Seattle for undergrad.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and Seattle at the time had this really thriving, like kink, sex positive, polyamorous, artsy,
Hmm.
like young burner community that was small enough that like if you went to the, you know, twice monthly bar event, you would
Hmm.
see the same people and get like into you'd find your people pretty fast. So much
Yeah,
that
yeah.
when I moved down to San Francisco, I was like, oh, it'll be so easy to find my people. I'll just start going to burner events. And it just doesn't work like that in San Francisco. Everybody's a burner,
Yeah.
nobody cares. And it's not enough to like bring people together. Uh, you know, or
Well,
if
it's
it
probably
is
different
in
communities,
smaller,
right?
not public groups.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know in Hawaii it was kind of like that. It's like we in the beginning it was kind of more of like, oh, hey, we're like burners together out here in the middle of nowhere. And then it was like this kind of grew and developed and it just splintered off and it's like different communities and it's like, oh, the fire spinners have their weekly fire jam and these other people have like their underground parties and like and like you said, it's like those like private lists and stuff and then new people come in and then I don't know. Like I'm not in charge of that anymore.
I mean, I think it's really an interesting thing. Like, if I'm outside of the Bay Area and I run into burners, it's this huge magical, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, we're already friends. In the Bay Area, it's just like, well, A, there's a lot of animosity towards burners. Like, there's so many of us, and it's such a huge thing, and it's so tied in narratively with our shitty tech overlords and being either, full of Instagram models or billionaires by people who haven't been. So
You're
there's
talking
a
about just
few
like
people.
local like Burning Man people. It's like you said animosity.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like Burning Man. I mean, it might have chilled out now that Burning Man has flopped on its face a couple of times, like publicly. Like, because I think it really came from FOMO. Like, oh, I don't want to do
Mm.
this. It seems like obnoxious people are doing this. Why does it make me upset that they're all doing this? When it's when it's just a bunch of fucking people camping, people aren't as up in arms about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so there's like some real you can palpably feel the culture war against
Hmm.
burners in the Bay Area in a way that you just don't anywhere else because there's just not enough of them to like really create that kind of dynamic.
Huh.
Uh, yeah.
That's interesting. No, I mean, because I've often thought about it as like it's like different like eras of Burning Man, and like, and remember I was talking to like on your show last week, like, oh yeah, for my listeners, I'm actually going to be on Accuracy Third. Well, this show is probably going to go out like early January, so I think the episode with me will be like some point after that. But but anyway, yeah. Well, no, the different eras of Burning Man. But like, yeah. So when I said like on your show, it's like I last my last year is 2011, and then it came back in 2024. So the last year I was there was the first year it sold out, and the first year it came back was the first year it didn't sell out. And so at that period, and just I'd always kind of out of it, but like just kind of reading stuff on like social media, but and just hearing stories from like afar. I mean, just like the pay for play camps, and like yeah, I mean, I guess that would be sort of the height of like the Instagram models and stuff. I mean,
I mean,
uh,
like sure, and like that I've gone most years between 2011 and 2024, like having
uh-huh.
been two, but like I never saw these things. Like the image of the negative sides of Burning Man, the Instagram models, the billionaire plug and play camps. It's like if I looked really hard, I could figure out I could make some assumptions about which camps were plug and
Mm-hmm.
play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd have to be actively seeking that out. It's just not in your face very much. It's
Yeah.
just what the media kind of latches onto
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
narratives around Burning Man. I assume because you can only say sex, drug, hippie party so many times before people don't care. So you
Yeah.
have to show the internal Burning Man conflict. Like, look at all these righteous burners getting angry at each other. And it's like, well, yeah, we're a big diverse community. We have lots of people care about it a lot and they have a lot of opinions. So yes, we have
Yeah.
a lot of in arguing, in fighting, but I don't that's the it that being newsworthy is always so weird to me. And it's like, why are there
Well,
articles
perhaps
about
it's like
men
they see it
can't
as like, like if it bleeds, it leads. But like, if there's trouble in paradise, and it's just like, oh, everyone's talking about it, is this like this great thing, but like here's the inside story. We did an investigation, it's like this is what's really going on, like,
I just
under the
like
covers. And
every
that's
fucking
what
year
media does, like, yeah.
like every year so there are multiple news stories about it and it's like guys it's a party like what are you doing
Mm,
like I mean the rain year at least like hey that was something like
mm,
something happened which was more than they usually find which is like protesters or like hey there was garbage on the side of the road before the people who pick up the garbage on the side of the road go through
mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
it's just looking for that how to make it interesting instead of just pointing at it and going like this is happening um because
Yeah.
it's not like interesting. It's interesting for us to go, it's interesting for us to be in there, but
Well,
it's not like
yeah.
a a feature of our culture. It's a party, so
Yeah. Well,
they
it's the
have to like
reporting on it year after year. It's like, yeah, you
yeah
have to be like, it's like, hey, Joe and Suzanne, it's like you've been going to report, for ABC News here for like, the past like 12 years, and we're reviewing your footage like every year. It's just like, wow, what a cool part. Like, like we need something juicier. Like what's really going on? Like we're hearing stories. People are saying on the internet, blah blah blah. Like get that story.
well I assume it's just because it's fun to hate. Hell, Burning Man burners
Yeah.
hate Burning Man. It's fun to hate.
Oh, there's always controversy. It's like in the, I mean, you've heard the theme song to my show. Like my friend Jenny, she came up with
Mhm.
that. Was it party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch? It's like, it's like, like it can sum up a lot of like Burning Man experience in like this one like little phrase. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I have friends who are just like, oh, we have a drama-free camp. I'm like, oh, bullshit. Like, I bet you'll find some drama there.
I just, oh my God, are we in middle school? How do you have a drama? Like that's just like our people won't ever be in conflict with each other. And it's like, what are you doing? How are you doing Burning Man then? Because like, are you saying all of you are always totally coherent and capable of communicating clearly to each other? And
Yeah.
are you even going to Burning Man at that point? Like, I mean,
Well, I think like in the introductory like my episode the first one like I talked to because I think there's some people listening to the show like who've never been to Burning Man, like some friends. Um but there's, and also remember you saying it's like you had a boyfriend at the time who had like been going, and then like it was like screw that, I'm not going anymore. But then by the time you were just starting, like, oh, I want to get into it. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's some people it's a bucket list thing. They just go once, they're just kind of like, oh, that's all I need, Or they go. I mean, I've known a few people who've gone, and it's like, well, they're there, and they're just like, I can't take like the sound, or it's like the crowds or whatever, and they just have to leave, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think for the other people that if you don't get like involved, it's like if you're just there for like a party, it's like after about like 3 years or so, it's kind of like the bloom is sort of off the rose, and you're like, yeah, get a little jaded, like been there, done that, And then there's
yeah.
people who like who get involved and they start a theme camp or they like they volunteer or all of the above, do art and art car, whatever, blah blah blah. And it's like a lot of people they'll go for like a dozen years, you know. Lord, and then there's people who go for more, and then it's just like the lifers, people just doing it like, I mean, like my last episode, Playa Pete. I mean, I don't think he's ever been like staff. I'm not sure if he's like volunteered. Like he's always done like the screen printing for them, so he's like always maybe like a vendor sort of thing. But yeah, he's been going the last like this year, the next year will be like 30 years straight, you know. And then uh I think like I might interview like Chef Juke coming up, and he's just I think hit like 30 years, and he's staff. But yeah, I mean, well, that kind of gets me to like the later part of like the show, like the third question of just it's like like the shadow of the man for you, just it's like, oh, you've been going like a number of years now. I'm sure it's been like a big part of your life, it's like you continue to go even though things change and evolve. Like what's it all mean to you? It's like, how's this have changed your life?
Huh. So I did 2 years and I was done. I did like when I was 23 and 24, and it was great. It was just expensive and
Yeah.
hard to do. And I was coming down from Seattle, which is a really long haul. Um, and so I was broke, you know? So it wasn't like I could afford to do it. Uh, and then I met D-Day, helping a friend move out of a house, and he was like, come work it. You're a theater person, you'd love it, towards my triad at the time. So the three
Hmm.
of us went out and volunteered, and that really, since then, I've been just in love with it. And
So where'd you
I,
volunteer?
huh?
Where'd you volunteer?
Center camp. I volunteered. I mean, I've been with the same team that I started volunteering for, just moving
Uh-huh.
around in different areas and now in sort of a leadership-ish role. But yeah, I found kind of the right spot for me basically immediately. I loved the crew. I loved what we were doing. I mean, that's not true. I slightly embarrassed about what we were doing, but it was something I was capable of doing, and I loved the people, and that's always mattered to me. Um, yeah, and like that coming in and doing volunteering really changed what it was for me.
Uh-huh.
What I didn't expect is like my whole life being wrapped around it the way that it is now, like doing the podcast. So I fell in love with Rex at Burning Man.
Uh-huh.
And the D-Day, Rex and I all kind of were like, hey, all of us want to make a podcast. And they were like, let's do it about Burning Man. And I was like, that's fucking dumb. Who wants to listen to a Burning Man podcast?
I don't
And
know. Like
and
I
then
always thought that like I wanted something, but like no one ever made anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the wrong person for a Burning Man podcast. I barely listen to ours, you know? I
That's
can
the
talk about
spirit.
Burning Man all the time. I'm surrounded by burners. All my friends are burners. All I on our council, I'm talking about Burning Man. It's not like I'm lonely and missing the vibe. I like live in
Mhm.
it. You know, Rex works at the office. I go in for tea and hang out with people. It is way more of my life than I ever would have suspected. And it
Are you staff? Are you working for Burning Man, or like or you have a different job?
No, I'm a volunteer manager. Like I do the planning for a staff camp. I get
Ah,
so like I just volunteer a lot.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
But just but like for your like default world like alter ego it's like oh so you're not like you're like paid by the Burning Man project or given
No,
like
God, no, no. I pay way too much money to go to Burning Man and
yeah
spend all kinds of money on it and do not get paid via them. I get like a travel reimbursement stipend, like a
uh
little bit of money, but it doesn't even make a dent in how much money I'm putting into the camp
oh
myself.
yeah yeah
So, but it's not, for me, that's a huge bonus. I have to frame this as volunteering. I think I
mm-hmm
would hate for my wage job to be Burning Man, because it would change my dynamic with it a lot. Like,
yeah
I take great comfort in knowing that everything that I'm doing is consensual, that I can walk away from it at
oh
any time.
yeah
I
yeah
don't have to do this. This isn't how I keep a roof over my head. It is something I do because I choose to, because I
mm-hmm
love it. I do it for my community. I do it for my friends. Like it being consensual, it being mutual is super deep for me. So it's like, even if I had the opportunity to get a paid job, I mean, A, they don't pay very well. And
yeah
B, I love my job. I'm so incredibly lucky
mhm.
working at the university that I work at, and I adore it. And yeah, I would hate to turn Burning Man into my financial
Yeah.
piece under capitalism. I mean, but fucking Rex loves it, and I'm so pleased
Well, I
for
think
him.
there might be different ways to go about it, but like, but I don't know. I think we probably might share the idea that like, and I think you guys explicitly say it in your show. It's like it's a gift, and it's like, and for me, it's like, I don't know. I'm now starting to realize because I was just like, no, I think the gifting might actually be for me, like, like my favorite of the 10 principles, or like something in the default world, like what you can actually do. And it's like, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna give out Jolly Rogers to people, it's like, it's like gifting is like just being nice to people, or helping somebody, like just like random acts of kindness, like with
Yeah,
no thinking of like, oh, I'm gonna get something out of it, it's like you just do it for the sake of doing it, like and so yeah, so like I said, like it's kind of it seems like we have a similar sort of attitude where it's like I don't know. This is just something for me, like for Shadow of the Man. It's like it's something I just want to I want to do, or like many projects I've done. It's like I don't know. I have this idea like core. I was just like it's like let's make this happen. It's like I mean, and if I can't do it, somebody else like will. You know, but yeah, like I gift to the community, but
it's so funny. I feel so resistant about having my attitude or my time be a gift. I think of it much more as communal effort and civic
well
responsibility.
that yeah, it's all kind of wrapped up. Like yeah,
Right. But so for me, it's about I have put all of this time and energy into this big, huge thing to make it a little bit better for some people.
yeah,
But doing that makes me feel more welcome to participating with everybody else's what they have brought.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like I want to give more of my time and energy and make it better in the ways that I can so that I can really roll around in the ways that everybody else does it. Like,
hmm
I'm not an artist in that way. I'm an artist in a lot of ways, but I'm not like a build things like practical artist. I don't really have a strong desire to build art out there. I'm really glad that other people do. I don't like making people food. I don't want to make people food out there. I don't like trinkets. I don't want to make a bunch of Fimo necklaces. I know there's just so what the weird thing that I have to give is basic
Yeah.
organizational skills, a tolerance for paperwork, and like some forward planning. And that is, it's a lot
Yep.
of time, but it's also
No,
really
that's a very special gift that is actually kind of rare out on the planet. Yeah.
we do fundraising and we made a council where we do collaborative decision making. It's like a lot of administrative sort of work, but it's work that I learned how to do professionally, so I might as well do it for something that I love.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's really fun and great practice to try to make big projects outside of a strongly hierarchical system of like
Hmm.
one person sort of top down telling us all what to do,
Hmm.
which
Oh,
is great skills to learn if I can never apply them in capitalism, but they're still nice to have.
I don't know. I think they're probably transferable. I mean, I'm not sure if you could put it on a resume, but I mean, maybe some places.
I mean, Burning Man runs much better meetings than my university does.
Yeah. Well, no, I think Burning Man is has definitely grown a good reputation too. And people don't remember it, like, but yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of cases now, it's like if you put down, it's like, oh, I have Burning Man experience, like working for like a Burning Man project, doing this and that. I don't know, even like military and stuff. Some places, they might be like,
I
like we trust that credential.
Yeah, we just interviewed Will Chase, and he was like, "No,
Oh
it's
yeah.
nothing on your resume." I'm like, I don't have it on my resume. I
Yeah.
started taking the podcast off my resume because I'm like, I'd rather my employers not, um,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
dig into that side of me, um, because it's not exactly like work appropriate for almost any workspace that exists.
Yeah. No, people have like their own opinions, or like they'll just kind of like type in like Burning Man, like, to Google, and it's just like the first like five things that appear. They're just kind of like, and like we said, like with the media and stuff, it's like it's quite often sensational, or like, or people like mad at each other, or crazy, you know. Um, yeah. So how many people are in the camp that you manage?
So this year is
Is
around 160 people.
okay.
Yeah, we're a fairly big staff camp. We're not the biggest, but we're up there. A lot of the staff camps are smaller than that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are under 100, except for like Gate and DPW's big main camps are
Oh
larger
yeah.
or pretty big. Too many people to actually remember all of their names, too many people to be able to know what is going on all the time in camp.
Oh yeah.
Too large a camp to be able to see from one side to the other. It's big. Yeah.
Well, do you think you're gonna? This is it? Like, are you thinking like, oh, you might want to try something different another year, or like.
So this will be next year. Will be the third 22, 23, 24. So this year was my third year sort of in this position. It's kind of changed titles.
Uh-huh.
This year was one of the first year where I felt like the changes that I've been making really improved the situation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my when you are a volunteer manager, like the first thing they tell you to do is get a second, get someone who you're training to replace you.
Oh
And I
yeah.
have a wonderful second, but he doesn't want the job, which is understandable. It's kind of too big of a role. It's more like, so instead of getting someone, I'm trying to get a group of people to start taking care of certain sections of it. Like
Yeah.
there's all of these very different parts. There's the administrative side, there's the fundraising side, there's the literal build side, which I'm shit at. Like I
Uh-huh.
can't work with no shade. Like when the camp comes and gets set up a
Uh-huh.
week before the week of setup so that we have infrastructure in place so our volunteers who are working the entire week of setup have a camp to go to, have some infrastructure, have shade, have water and the basic things that they need before the whole infrastructure of the city comes in.
So
Uh,
how long are you up there for?
um, this year it was 3 weeks, and I think I'm going to try and
Oh
keep it
well.
at that Wednesday to Wednesday. The Wednesday before setup week to Wednesday of strike. And I think that
Wow.
was for me. It's like I get a little too like tired and burnt out to be useful much past that. So I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm gonna be aiming for next year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just it's kind of hard to get that kind of time off, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And the fuck of it is it's not even time off. I take 4 days off. I'm working. I'm working my job remotely while I'm there. I am checking email. I like do a bunch of advance work so that everyone's set before I go.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I am available via email. And sometimes I can even have meetings, but the internet has been not really possible, which is my preference. I'd rather not be having Zoom meetings
Yeah.
while I'm there.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's a difference between like, it's like you're managing like a large like staff camp, it's like and you got to be there for 3 weeks and you have a job, I mean, like, I mean, it's not, your passion for it is not a question. Like,
Yeah, I'm just very lucky in my job setup that I can get away with that,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah.
But
No,
so I,
because like this many years ago, I remember like when Wi-Fi was first started to become like available, like I don't know, maybe like early 2000s or whatever, and uh I don't know, people were just like, "What?" It's like we don't want to know like what's going on in the world. But then and other people just like, "What? People got to work," and then there's in the beginning it was like, "What the hell? You go to Birdie Band," But now, like like listening to your story, it's like, yeah, no, people gotta work. Like it's like, oh, you want me to be there for 3 weeks? It's just like, well, it's not really a question of like money or or so much or this or that. It's like it's a question of time, and it's like not
and
many people can do that. Like, yeah.
yeah, but they also equal the same thing. Like it's when I before I got this job and I was doing freelance work as like a technician, like lighting, sound, video for live events. It's like I can take as much time off as I
Hmm.
want, but I'm not making any money while I am. So,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of friends that go out there doing that. Like
Hmm.
it can take a long time, but it's more than just the time off. They are losing a large amount of money by doing it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think is going to really start showing up now that the economy is so crappy. Um, a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, like it seems like now I don't know, this is some sort of new era we're all kind of going into. I mean, starting with COVID, and then like, being really hot and then like, really wet, cold and wet. And now this year, and then like the funding and issues and stuff. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But, like many people have said, it's like an iceberg or like, like a large ship, tanker. It's like it has a lot of momentum.
Yeah, I hesitate to guess. Whatever they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, but no matter like what the headwinds that come along, right? Uh, I think like, and it's like a brand new like first year burner. I met like on the bus, like when we're leaving this time, and I think he was like a little bit like worried, or he was just like, "What do you think is like going to happen like in the future, or it's like, is it going to happen again?" And it was like, "Oh, Burning Man has this momentum. I think it was like Larry Harvey or somebody said something, it's like an oil tanker or like a big cruise ship or something, like way out in the ocean. Like it takes a while for it to stop. It's like it takes a while, for it to turn around, you know.
I
So
mean,
it's just like
a
it's
volunteer organization, it is insane to actually run something this large and this complex, totally off of the goodness of the hearts of people uh who make it. Like
oh
that
yeah.
takes forever to change anything. And when you do, everybody fucking hates it. I would say that's part of the thing about being on somewhat insidery is it's so frustrating how many people think that they have a clever idea that can fix it all. Like that, it's just like, well, yeah. uh-huh, like you're not even thinking about the fact that this is volunteers, which is sort
Yeah.
of the baseline of the whole thing. They're looking at the whatever 100 paid staff jobs and going like, that's Burning Man. And it's like,
Yeah.
that you can't actually fix anything when Burning Man in just those people. Like
Oh
that's not
yeah.
how it's made. Oh God, someone on like Reddit suggested that they become a for-profit events production company.
What?
And it's like, and that it would be super easy for them to start making money. And I was like, oh my God, you've never talked to anyone who's worked a festival. You've never met anyone who's planned a
Is it like
festival.
serious or are they,
Yeah, no, it's some tech douchebag that who's just like, I
well,
have the
because
answer. Obviously, the problem is no one is smart as I am.
oh God. Yeah. Just make like with their own Burning Man crypto thing. Like that was another thing, right?
Oh my God, if they release like what are the images that you can own Ellen
Oh,
or no, that's Leave No Trace. Uh.
we're gonna monetize Leaves No Trace. Yeah. Yeah. NFTs, I think.
NFTs, that yes, yes.
Non-fungible tokens or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it'd be
Wow.
really funny. I'm happy to sell people the images that they can have.
So what, like every like a little click I could take go around and take pictures of, and it's just like, oh, here's my picture of like, robot heart. Here's my
I
pic.
I I think so at the end of the year, the restoration team sends us pictures of everywhere we fucked up with L&T. So they'll be
Oh
like
yeah.
so there'll be like a dirty hippie hand and a dog in the background and a guy like holding like six like metal shards and a tiny unicorn and they show you on the map where that was like left. And I think that they could make those into non-fungible tokens. Just you get your very own, like, here's a picture of something that was left on Playa, uh, photo.
Ah, wow. I mean, I wonder if the price of it would go up if it was like, the worse the offense, like
Yeah.
here, here's a bonfire. Somebody like just like lit up all their trash, like
Oh yeah. If it's a bucket, don't open the bucket. It's always full of poop. Buckets are
uh,
always full of poop.
I don't know. But I mean, the only thing, like, I don't know, I was thinking about, like, I mean, like these wild conspiracy theory people like, oh, Brady Band's gonna be over this and that. Like you're saying, like we're losing like, a lot of momentum, and a lot of it is the volunteers, right? I mean, like, what would make all of the volunteers also just quit? I mean, that's something I heard like in '96. I mean, that was kind of like one of the we were between like '95 and '96 or something. There was like a big like, or maybe between '96 and '97. There was like a big split. It's like where it was just sort of like from one era to another. Where it's like a lot. It was like everything. Everyone burned everything down, and the volunteers all left. But then like when I interviewed Coyote, it's like that's when Coyote kind of came in, and it's like, that's when Burning Man, I don't know, like everything's like an evolution, it's like it's not, nothing's quite really a death, but like a rebirth, or, it becomes something new and different. And so I guess
Yeah.
now it's not really any different, right?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, if they get the permit, they get the permit. I think that, you know, uh it'll be an interesting year.
Well, what's
I
the worst that could happen? It's just like outside of like weather or stuff, right? Are people worrying? It's like, oh no, no one's gonna buy a ticket? Or what if Burning
um,
Man's only like 52,000 people? I
I
mean,
I
that actually
honestly
sounds
think
awesome.
I honestly think that the main stumbling block is if they don't have enough money to buy the permit and the all the things associated with that permit. Like in order to get the permit, they have to have the poop pumpers, they have to have the ice trucks, they
Mhm.
have to do it's not so the permit is a few $1 million, but
Mhm.
the contracts with those things are also several $1 million. I mean, it's a lot of money that is being spent and I think that's the fear is that there won't be enough money to pay for the basic infrastructure to have the permit. I think the volunteers
Oh,
and the seasonal workers will always be there, but they also have to consider that. Like, do they have enough money to pay all of these seasonal workers? Because there is like
mhm.
a couple of thousand DPW that are on short-term contracts out there. Um,
Yeah.
so, there's 10, 11,000 volunteers for the org, but there's like 1 or 2 thousand short-term employees that
Hmm.
they also need to be paying, which they don't pay very well, but they do feed and house them. And they also do meet trainings. Like if you are in DPW and have a short-term contract, they will certify you on all of their heavy equipment because
Uh-huh.
they do those
Oh
certifications.
wow.
So you can like go in and get actual direct marketable skills out of it, which
Huh.
is pretty cool. There's a lot to be
That's an
said.
interesting thing because I mean, like so many people think it's just like, oh, Burning Man is just kind of, or the Burning Man project is so extractive, you know. It's just like, oh, they're just kind of like using these like seasonal workers, they're using these carnies and throwing them away. But it's like I don't know, I never even realized that. It's like, oh, you could get like or update or get continuing education credit or whatever, like on your licensure, on your accreditation for being like a bit like machine operator
Right.
or
Like
whatever
you
and what
can
have
now
you.
operate a forklift with which really changes what you can do in the world. Um,
Huh.
like financially wise, what jobs are available to you. Yeah, I think, those
DPW
contracts.
is a job training.
Yeah, I mean it is, but like that's actually one of the like sticking parts for my heart is because so I interact with those
Huh.
people a lot. We go up and do work weekends where we work on repairing our stuff off Playa. So we're staying at Block Rock Station and we're around the people who have like long-term contracts. And I have friends who are long-term contract workers and they, it's a really specific job and
Hmm.
these are groups of people that are often transient, often like are doing this kind of seasonal work all around. Some of them are 9 month contracts with Burning Man and they just patch together a thing for 3 months over here. Some of them are 1 month and are constantly moving, doing stuff. And like
Hmm.
there was this huge shift in dynamics when they legalized weed because a lot of these
What?
people trimmers because you could make a good living trimming weed because it was illegal because it had high stakes. So you could get like $25 an hour just cutting up weed, living in a beautiful woodsy area of like Arcata, California. Um,
Huh.
so a lot of folks that are in DPW or are in sort of were in sort of gray market area employment. It might not be employment that's on the books. It might not be employment that is fully legal. It's certainly not steady employment. It often involves moving physically your location. It often involves physical labor. So it's, like this is a group of people that are vulnerable. And
Well, what happens to all these people when they get older? You know, I mean, Burning Man's been
question.
going on like 40 years now, whatever. I mean, some of
Yeah.
those early DPW people 40 years ago, if they were 23, it'd be like freaking 63 now or whatever, like theoretically. Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know. It's one of the things that I jokingly, somewhat like actually not jokingly, like every years ago, coming up with the moniker, the Burning Acres. It's like we're gonna have like a retirement community for all like the DPW and like the volunteers and like we said, like people who've been like itinerant, like who've gone around working. Like, I mean, I've known people. I've sadly had people die fairly young, like in their 60s, because they couldn't afford like the healthcare and whatever and whatnot, but people who just worked like cash jobs, it's like
yeah.
carpentry or like painting and just like never paid into Social Security,
If they even have a fucking job record. It's,
yeah.
it's a really tenuous sort of place to be. So, and like in case your listeners don't know, that is also the weird and crusty soul of Burning Man. These weirdos, these are people who don't, and I'm not saying this about all of them, but like these are people who don't easily fit within society. These are people that don't easily pass as normies. These are people who are outside of our structures so much that they would struggle to be within them. And that's part of how Burning Man stays so weird and unique. And like, it's also the place where we get the most diversity in the income levels that we have out there. There's like a low level, it is expensive to go to Burning Man. The cheapest way to go to Burning Man is to work for it. The cheapest way to go to Burning Man is to be a volunteer and get a ticket. Like the volunteers and the contract employees are the poorest people on Playa. Um, and that's also how we keep the soul of it like doing something. The
Hmm.
moment that we don't have space for people who can't afford several $1,000s, a flight across the world, rent an RV, the moment that we don't, those people aren't coming to Burning Man, like the thing that makes it magic is gonna die. And so it's like this diversity is coming from them and they're vulnerable and the org is taking advantage of them in some ways, but they're also doing a halfway decent job. Like the most of their fucking jobs suck. Most of their jobs are vulnerable. Most of the situations they're in are not great. And so it's like this really weird thing where you're like, oh fuck, I love this person and I feel like they're being taken advantage of, but they love this job. And like this is one of the stable, better parts of their year. They love this community. This is really meaningful to them. So
No,
it's just like,
that's right there. Like the word mean. Yeah, I think like yeah, they could be really vulnerable and they not fit in, but like for this, I think for a lot of these people, like it brings meaning, right? So finally it's like, everybody has some gift or something that they're good at. No one is just all bad at everything. And sometimes these weird esoteric things, it's like sometimes, yeah, in a big party, you need a manager. Like, but I mean, so I'm sure for like a lot of these, like, itinerant kind of like workers and stuff, and it's like this might be like one of the few moments and times of actual like meaning for people too, so it's like on the one hand, like, oh, you're taking advantage of these people. On the other hand, it's like, well, I mean, we are giving them an opportunity and we're giving them meaning.
yeah, absolutely. And like it's one of those weird things where it's like you could also very much save a little nest egg. You're getting fed and housed for the period of time that you're working that contract. You don't actually have to spend, and you're getting as much free bar as like imaginable. Like you're in a good situation not to spend a bunch of money, although people, there's still a lot of things that the org isn't providing that people out there like to do. So I
They
don't
don't have a
know.
casino yet? What?
Do they have slot machines in Bruno?
No, it's
I
like
don't
a fly ranch or something, the fly ranch
know.
casino.
But yeah, I if people are really interested in what makes Burning Man unique, I think that population, that group of people is the people to look at.
Hmm.
Because it's also like the things that get done out there are so silly and so hard, and it just takes the patience of so many like hardworking people to get it done. And they're all slowly driving each other crazy too. Like it is,
Yeah.
it's like working on a cruise ship. You're like working with the same people in a small area for a long time, and then suddenly there's 80,000 people.
Yeah, yeah. And then
uh,
they're all gone again. And I don't know. I mean, you said you leave just like the Wednesday after? How much of resto do you actually stay for?
that's it. Like
Yeah.
I want to get the major parts of our camp deconstructed, do some inventory. Uh, you know, that's basically where I get to. We have camp strike leads that are actually taking it all the way to the resources, like our org
Mhm.
resources getting off Playa, our stuff getting fully removed, and like the last L&T stuff. So yeah, I don't stay to through the end. I'm honestly fairly ready to go
Yeah.
by the time that
Well,
comes around.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. Well, for some of our listeners, restos play restoration. And how long do they spend there? Is it
Like a
like
month,
a month?
like 4 weeks or something like that. They're no longer living out on Playa, so it's after there's the strike, which goes to the Friday.
Hmm.
There's Last Supper is what happens on Friday after Burning Man. Um, and that's like the last meal that they serve in commissary, and no one's spending the night on Playa after that.
Oh.
So after Good Friday or after the Last Supper, everybody is no longer on Playa. So they're back out at the ranch or back in Gerlach or at the 360 or wherever they put people. Um, and then there's usually, I think that there's a break like a couple of weeks, and then they start restoration, which is the really intensive, long line sweeps where with all the documentation that when we get the map out and you see all of that detail, that's what they're doing. And they
So
do
they
that.
actually wait a couple of weeks. I mean, I imagine they
Yeah.
leave the trash fence up, right? Or
I don't, these are great questions for someone who like does it.
yeah.
I actually have a friend of mine staying with me right now who's working the Dickens Fair, who just got like
Oh, what's
goes
that?
from Playa. Oh God, the Dickens Fair. The Dickens Fair is a
What the Dickens?
Dickens, like the period, like when Dickens wrote. It's
Yeah.
basically Christmas cosplay in like you dress up in Edwardian English stuff and
What if
go.
you show about like as like an Edward Gorey type of Edwardian?
I mean, they're not really that picky as long as you are
That's
spending $45 to get the opportunity to shop, they're happy with it. Like
mm.
you can buy a $360 dress that you could wear to the Dickens Fair next year, or you can wear sweatshirts and a legging and buy a beer. No one cares. But
It,
like,
do they do a Dickens camp at Burning Man?
oh, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'd want to know. This family that does Dickens Fair is a fucking nightmare. And
Uh,
like, and when I'm talking about these communities, a whole bunch of people from Resto go and do Dickens Fair, and like they're like a little
uh,
family, and they all like each other. So the fact that they're getting paid, $18 an hour to do rigging is something that is okay, I guess.
mhm.
So
Is there like a circuit that they would go to, like the different festivals? I mean, I guess there's
sure.
like Oregon Country Fair or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The guy, the actual logistics lead of our camp is named Ray, and Ray builds the steam room, out at Oregon Country Fair every year, and that's his job. He produces stuff professionally for a living, and like he has employees, and they put it up, and some of those, you know with a lot of these folks, there are people who are like going from thing to thing and have a steady circuit, and some are just scrapping along, trying to figure out what's next. But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, there's definitely a rhythm to what things are available seasonally. But
Huh.
now with festivals in general, like shuttering their doors, there's going to be a lot of loss of work in that industry again.
I mean,
Uh,
why do you think that is? I mean,
the
it's just all
economy.
of a sudden it's just the economy. It's just too many festivals. I mean, like cyclical. I mean, like the things go up, things go down, things go all
I mean,
around.
I don't know what it's like in Hawaii, but in San
Yeah,
Francisco, it's really expensive to just have food. You know, it's really,
yeah,
it's gotten really expensive just to be. And the same amount of money is going a lot less far. And stuff like festivals is just easy to be like, you know what, that's a lot of money. I don't feel like I have several $1,000s
yeah,
for gas and supplies and tickets and stuff
yeah,
to go do basically a fun thing, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So I just think there's a lot fewer people who are like thinking that kind of expendable income is easy come, easy go at this point.
Yeah. Well, in kind of in keeping with this, like this is actually going to be the first episode of 2025, and certainly looking ahead at this next year, and just things changed from last year, and that happened this year. Like just something just popped into my head, just talking about like, oh, it's hard to go to Burning Man. It's expensive. It's easiest to like get a job like working for them, and even if you're not doing that, it's just like, oh yeah, people sacrifice and scrape together and pay a couple grand, like and go to Burning Man. And then there's like been the stories of like like the billionaires or the dot-com bros or whatever. People just have like uh, like tons of money, But maybe this is. Oh, then the other thing is just like with just the recent history of Luigi Mangione, and like the key like the slaying of a healthcare like CEO. I mean, like I wondered like how many of these like billionaires or dot-com CEOs like might kind of think twice. Be like I don't know, maybe I don't want to go to Burning Man.
I mean, I
I
don't
mean
fucking
that's still
um,
far-fetched, but
yeah, like I'm sure the org is really twisted up about whether they come or not, but I could
do you
care less.
really think they're worried that like people won't buy tickets, or maybe just to like a certain degree?
I mean, I Yeah, I think that they're worried the fact that they expected a certain amount of money to come out of tickets and that was what, 10,000, $10 million short. I do. I think they're worried about that. That's worrisome.
Yeah. But I
And
mean, I don't know. I mean, I think like we talk about, like I think Burning Man has this like momentum, and like for like 2025, like I mean, definitely it's like the ticket like pricing structure like it didn't work for last year. It's like, the was the FOMO, the super expensive tickets, which were, what were they, like 1,500 and 2,500 or something like that. There were two tiers, like,
yeah,
and so
I
and
haven't bought a
so
ticket in a decade, so I have no idea.
oh, though this is the first year I actually bought a ticket
Yeah.
since, I don't know, 2001 or whatever. But the FOMO tickets, just for the listeners, like these were tickets that would help like raise money for Burning Man. So for people who could afford it, to help pay for like the low income tickets, or to pay for like the honoraria, like the art grants and things like that. And so this past year, these these more expensive FOMO tickets didn't really sell very well.
Mhm.
I mean, all the other radio tickets, I think, sold pretty well, But
I think that you're kind of pointing at two different things, which is like the community producing events
mhm.
obviously will never go away, or if
Yeah,
it does, it will take a long time. The organization suffering a critical collapse, I have no idea. I don't know when that is. I don't know what their budget is, but it's totally possible.
yeah, it's
Being
possible.
20 million in the hole is not like a great look, but
Hmm.
I don't know what it is to run an organization that large. Like I've worked at a bunch of nonprofits and
Hmm.
they all had financial difficulties and all were too dependent on money that is a big question mark if you're going to get every year. And
Yeah, yeah.
the second the economy turns, they all fucking into a wall because they don't have other ways of making money.
Hmm.
If it's all like it's all donations and it's all ticket sales and that's it. And both of those things can fluctuate really, really wildly, even if for some reason all of us started to believe that it would always be sold out. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, it's a who knows? Uh,
yeah, yeah. I guess we're all gonna see, but definitely this year we were joking around it being like, one year being too hot, one year being too cold. This year was kind of the Goldilocks year. I mean, I'm sure that'll
mhm. This year
influence.
was so nice.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, perhaps that will influence some people. But I guess there's so many unknowns. I mean, like, we'll see what happens with Burning Man. But I don't know. Anyway, like, we're back to like my show, or like like this seems to be like a continuing like passion for you, and you love it, and so like you can you see, just so it's like, oh, for, I mean, the rest of your life, it's like, I mean, like, what place does Burning Man have, like, in your life?
I mean, so this podcast that I've been doing for 9, 10 years now really shifted how prevalent it is in my life. And
Uh,
Rex, being my partner, really shifted how prevalent it is in my life. Um, I always give myself the out if it stops being fun, if it starts being too anxiety provoking, like I but I want to be a part of this community for the rest of my life. If that involves org sanctioned tickets, that'd be great. If it doesn't, I'm not concerned about losing my access to my community. Partially because through the things that I've learned through volunteering, I'm now a community organizer myself. We bring people together, we make events happen. We know how to do this. So, like, while I would be sad for all the people who are employed at Burning Man, because they're all really cool. That's like a great thing about kind of being on the inside is like all the employees are just amazing. They're like smart, amazing, passionate, creative, funny, kind people that, are really give a shit about what they're doing. And it would be sad for them. But the organization itself is a container that grew up through the capitalistic system to hold the event to get the permit. It's not the thing itself. And
yeah.
the thing itself is that big rudderless ship that you can't stop on a dime. It's not going to turn fast. It's just going to keep going.
And I
Um,
think that is what you like I hear you saying. It's like that is the community. You know,
mm,
that is, I mean, for me, I don't know, I kind of I call it the connection, you know,
mm,
and it's you know, I mean, like what is a burner and like what is the Burning Man experience and this and that. It's like, yeah, it's like in it I mean, it's incredible things. I mean, it also another thing that I was talking to Chef Juke about, and it's like something I didn't even consider. And he's been writing a piece, and just the importance of like awe, you know, and inspiration, you
mm.
know. And I was like, and it really connected with me, and it's just like, yeah, you know, like just. I mean, some of us we're just we get like so jaded, whether it's like, oh, I'm a long time burner, you're like an old or whatever, you know, it's like been there, done that, you know. But just to see something and just like, wow, I've never seen that before, you
I
know,
see
and then
that.
get inspired with like, you know
Yeah.
what, I could do that or I could do better, you know.
I mean, I see stuff I've never seen before every year at Burning Man. Like
Yeah,
it's, you know, I try to be jaded about it, but I love it a lot. And
yeah,
obviously, because I'm willing to put a whole bunch of time and energy and effort into it.
yeah.
And like, it's kind of a self-reflexive defensiveness to be jaded about it simply because it's obnoxious to be on cloud nine about it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's also the flaws in it are glaring. And it's also, you know, and the pain that happens in it too is glaring. You know, it is a
Hmm.
very complex and not totally kind and straightforward system. It's just so much better than being crushed under capitalism. It's just so nice to be able to like step out of it, even in a make-believe LARPing kind of way for a couple of weeks. It's so renewing to my soul. And like,
But then it
I,
continues on in your life too, right? I mean, not just the podcast, but people in your community or other
yeah,
people like
like,
regionals and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I go to regionals. We had our own little regional during the COVID times, where we would go do camping trips with our friends. And, you know, that was really lovely. But there's nothing quite like how interesting it is, how complex it is to be working in such large groups of people. Like I am nominally in charge of a camp that is too many people for me to hold in my head. You know, like that's a really interesting engagement with community that I wouldn't really have an opportunity to do elsewhere. And it's not my job to get them to do anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not to produce anything. It's to make their camping trip a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that feels like such a privilege to have something that I'm doing that is just to help out the people in my community have a better time. And like, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for that outside of Burning Man and outside of the Burning Man organization, but I haven't
Uh-huh.
found any like communities like that where I just feel um I feel like it's so worthwhile to put my time and energy and effort into them.
Hmm.
And I'm so welcome in them and feel so at home around you know, these great weirdos that we all are. Um yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think we kind of forge this connection and we forge this bond, like, you know, like through going out to the desert and through like the different the 10 principles, you know, like I still kind of see the 10 principles where it's like a recipe that gets you to this place where like random strangers will have like incredible intense connection, like lifelong like connections, you know.
Yeah, but like an airport bar can do that. Like it's
Oh yeah, it
I
could be anywhere. Yeah,
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 I don't
exactly.
uh I don't know. The 10 principles are I think they're a great way to summarize something that is unsummarizable.
Hmm.
And I sometimes ick at the simplicity and preachiness that they tend to seem to hold, even though they're
Yeah.
always
I,
said
I
these descriptive, not prescriptive, and you know,
Yeah, I don't like them as just like you know like these are 10 commandments or like prince. I mean they're principles, you know, but like it's not like a dogma. Like I've always looked at it as like that's no, that's a recipe to get to the good thing that's hard to define. Like it's like everybody has their own. Like for me, it's I call it something called the connection. So it's like we're all connected, and it's just like that. To me, that's the great gift of the playa. And it bears fruit in like every which different way. But then also, like I said, like with Chef Juke, like he was just like, oh yeah, but then there's also awe and there's also inspiration. Like I mean, there's no one. You can't just come with one word. Like this is what it's about, baby. But I don't know. I feel like just that's what kind of I've been away for like a number of years and came back, and it's like, and what is it? It's like, yeah, it is family, it's friends. It's connections. You know. But anyway, we go a little over an hour, but this has been an awesome interview. Like, thanks, Beth. So anyway, Beth is one of the hosts of Accuracy Third podcast, a wonderful Burning Man podcast. How many years have you guys been around again?
9, 10.
9 or 10? I mean, so what episode number are you guys up to now? Like 100 and something, or
Yeah. Let
or
me look.
10? Well, because how
CJ would be
many?
annoyed at me for not knowing this. Oh yeah, and I don't even have the numbers because we labeled them by number of the seasons, but we stayed in season 5 through all of COVID.
Eh,
So season 5 is
5A, 5B.
3 years, right? It's from the end of uh 2019 to the end of Playa, end of Burning Man 2022. So 3 years in one season.
Ah.
But we're starting season 8 here at the beginning of the year. We release an episode every 2 weeks, sometimes more, sometimes less. We interview everyone and anyone who has been to Burning Man or a regional event. Um, our goal is to find a way to capture some of the stuff that's out there. As like historians of Burning Man, it's like it can be so easy to misunderstand what it is when all you're seeing is
Oh yeah.
pictures often lean towards like I had a friend who was coming out and she's like 42 and she was like, am I going to be the oldest person there? And I'm like, Burning Man is for the old. Like you can't Google Burning Man, look at pictures and think I don't belong there. So I think that one of the goals of our podcast is to allow all of these different people from different walks of life who do Burning Man in different ways really talk about their experiences
Uh-huh.
so that people who are thinking about it or wondering about it can know that, yeah, actually, it is for you, introverted engineer guy. Yes, it's actually for you, a socially awkward autistic person. Yeah, it actually is for you, nerdy, geeky, like weirdo. It is
Yeah.
not pretty hot, cool people dancing, even though you can definitely find that.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
it's it's for real weirdos, and I think that conversations is probably the best way to show that. Uh,
Hmm.
you can't really capture it in a photo.
Well, it's funny because like Burning Man historically has never had a marketing department, right? Like I mean,
They
they've
had a
never.
minister of propaganda.
Well,
They pick weird titles for stuff.
oh yeah, yeah. No, but they've never like paid like for like advertisement. They've never had to like uh, like I mean, it was always like word of mouth. Like Burning Man was like a thing, right?
Hmm.
So yeah. Oh, fuck, I think I just forgot my train of thought there. But no, I mean, it's like they've never uh had to like go out there like and promote themselves, but like oh yeah, like but like we were talking about before, like the media, it's like if it bleeds it leads. It's like they're gonna focus on it. It rains, it's like catastrophic event, people stuck at Burning Man, they may have to eat themselves. But when in the reality, the story that comes out was just like that was like one of the most like communal efforty kind of experience times, as I've heard. I wasn't there. But people said like it was magical. It was a magical experience of people coming together and sharing, and it was kind of like people like, oh, this was like a throwback to like an older time, like when there was more participation or a communal effort, or people just like randomly like helping each other out you know so Yeah, no, I mean, I think your podcast is like a great service because, like I said, like Burning Man doesn't have a marketing department, and like the media comes out and it's like, oh, doom and gloom. It's like your show, my show. It's like no, these are real people. These are real stories. You know, I mean, people from like various communities. Just be like, hey, it's like you're welcome here. It's like you could be young, you could be old, you could be of a different race or ethnicity, or whatever persuasion or a different country. It's not with as portrayed in the media. And like we said, like Burning Man's not doesn't have a marketing department. Like they're not going to come out and say these things. But I don't
Well,
know.
now they're buying Instagram ads, so we'll see. Maybe they will have a marketing department here in a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think that, I mean, being a nonprofit, like it could be like a membership based, or like kind of like an NPR kind of thing. I mean, it seems like they're sort of halfway to that, but I don't know. Anyway, those are topics for another day. I mean, it was funny. I was like in my head, I had an idea just for like another podcast. I always think of just like, what would be different? Like, what did people do? It was like, what about this week in Burning Man? Like, all you have to do is just follow stuff on social media and just be like, what happened this week? I mean, there's been plenty of things happening. But anyway, so if anybody wants to contact you or the show, do you have like
Oh yeah, you
send it
can
somewhere?
reach out to us if you'd like to be interviewed. Anyone
Oh
who
yeah.
has been can come on the podcast. We do phone call interviews and we do local interviews in sunny Oakland, California. So if you're one of our Bay Area burners or come into town for any reason, we love doing interviews in person. We built a studio in D-Day's backyard. It's really cute. Come, we will get you drunk and or stoned and or sober, whatever you prefer. But you can reach out to us at accuracythird@gmail.com, all spelled out, one word, accuracythird@gmail.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was really lovely talking to you, Andy.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts. It just helps to get this show seen. Please tell a friend and help to spread the word. If there's enough support, we can do a lot more of these shows and publish more shows per month. If you would like to contact us about being a guest, what you think about the show, or whatever, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast, that's all one word, @gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. The links for these pages are all available on the front page of shadowoftheman, all one word, .com. See you next month for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.